Hey,
Yo,
yo,
sir,
let's go.
let's go. What do you follow that up with?
I, okay.
Oh yeah, okay.
Let's go. I love that.
Let's go. Okay.
I copied that
That's
from my
funny.
good friend Riku. She's so cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, welcome everybody to Don't Worry Wednesday. We made it, and you made it. And this is the show that's all about you guys, all about stuff going on in your guys' lives. We love doing your topics. We just need some.
Yeah.
So I think Katz, you were talking about making one. At least you were mentioning it in the chat. I haven't been paying attention to the
I haven't either.
thing.
I'll go take a hot glance.
Go take a hot glance. Don't take a
Oh, we
cold
got
glance.
one.
We got one.
We got one.
Well, sweet.
I don't know who it's from.
Oh,
It's urgent and there's no names attached. So, I'll quickly curate this. It won't take long.
okay. And Katz is writing. Katz is typing a lot. It's going to take a sec.
Oh, okay.
So there
this
will
isn't
be
hers.
another one coming shortly.
Okay, yeah.
In a sec. But a sec has already passed since you wrote that.
That's true. A sec. Wait, how long is a sec? Is a sec a parsec of
Well,
something else?
it's a
A
shortened
sec.
version of a second.
Oh, so it's not even a full second. It's like less than a second if it's
Well,
the short version.
a sec is like it's an abbreviation or something.
Oh. Well, I liked the way we were going before with this because I'd like to redefine sec as shorter than a second.
Shorter than a second. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Katz, yes,
Just to really
I know you're making art,
confuse things.
and art takes time. We had this discussion. Art takes time and effort.
Oh, does it?
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely does. I would know.
Mm-hmm.
I live with someone who does art a lot, but I also have tried to do my own. It takes a while.
Well, music is an art, and you're very
Yeah.
familiar
Oh,
with
yeah, that's
that.
true.
You
Yeah,
know.
that takes a while.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The
All
atmosphere
right,
went
well,
180
it's
degrees.
it's curated.
180 degrees is hot.
180 degrees Celsius
Or Fahrenheit. Either one. It's hot.
or Kelvin?
Or Kelvin. Or anything.
Kelvin, you might be okay with.
Really?
Let's check it out. Hey, Google. 180 K2F. We're looking at yeah, that's the thing. 180 Kelvin is negative 135 Fahrenheit.
Oh,
So
never mind.
that's
So
not
that's
that
pretty
hot.
cold. That's
That's pretty.
chilly.
It's not okay. I said it might be okay. It is not okay. A
It's
negative
still not okay.
135.
But it's not hot.
Actually, actually, you could survive in a room that was 135 way longer than you could survive in a room that was negative 135. I'm sure of it.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you were naked.
But 130. I wasn't expecting you to say that. I'm sorry.
Well, I know.
Sometimes
Sometimes you just gotta throw those out.
Anytime I hear Ryan say the word naked, I'm like, wait a minute.
It's just drawn. Taking it back. Wait, isn't that a swear word? No, wait, it's not. It's not a swear word. Okay. Wow, that was weird. You just said naked.
You just said naked, man. Like, what in the
Yeah.
world? All right. Well, clearly we're not professionals.
Yeah, that's right.
We're not professional counselors, therapists. We're not anything like that. We want to be your friend. We want to help in any way we possibly can. We want to walk alongside you along this journey we call life, and just be as helpful as possible. We know that you guys a lot of times are able to figure this stuff out on your own. You're definitely smart enough, but sometimes we get focused on minor details within the situation, and it's hard to see the big picture. And sometimes it takes an outside perspective to shed light on that bigger picture. But more than anything, we just want to be loving. We want to be encouraging. We want to give you a place to land and be yourself and just let it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. There are very few things in this world that are a life and death situation. Very few. It's going to be okay. Sometimes things can be very, very difficult, but they're not impossible. I mean,
That's right.
It might be about impossible for me to be a professional basketball player at this point, which is a good thing. That was never a dream of mine, except for maybe for about a week when I was in 7th grade or something like that. But yeah. Anyway,
how many times did you almost die in your life?
How many times have I almost died?
Yeah. What do you think? How many times do you think you've almost died?
At least once.
At least once. Okay.
One that I can remember.
Okay, and here's my question for you. Was that life or death situation wrapped around all of the fatigue of worry and like ruminating and all this kind of stuff that we do about
No,
right?
because it was like an instant thing.
Yeah, that's how it's been for me. I probably died almost like 15 times, but everything's always just in that moment, instant, and then if you clear it, you're good, Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, maybe there are a few more in there because I did party a lot.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And there were there were a few times when I went to bed and I was just like,
"Oh, I'm not sure if you're gonna wake up."
I don't know, man. Like this could be it.
Fair.
Yeah, I'm feeling really like I just need to lay down, and then you lay down, and then everything is just like, what? Yeah.
I'm glad I've never had to experience that. That's good.
Yeah. I don't think anybody ever has to experience that.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, well, that is definitely true.
It was definitely a choice.
Yeah. Was it the right one? I'm not sure.
Maybe
it was a choice.
not. I don't know. It gave me XP, I suppose, But that's the thing, like no matter what happens, you're going to come out of it with some XP, right?
True. Absolutely.
No matter how hard it is, no matter how, crazy it is, no matter how much people do whatever they do, because people mess with you, man.
Oh yeah, they mess with you for sure.
Like cats, man. Like cats messes with me.
Oh, she likes messing with people. That's her game. It's her jam.
Yep. But it's fun, right?
Oh yeah.
And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Of course it is. Of course.
So
it's a great time.
Anyway, so how are those topics looking? Do they look good?
Oh, they're good. You can go ahead and put the first one or the second one. Oh wait, I didn't do the second one yet, but you can go ahead with the first one.
Which one are we doing first?
The one that doesn't even have a name.
The urgent.
Otherwise, I can do this other one. Oh, that urgent. Does. It's from August. Oh, August has one.
Wait,
that's great.
I can't even get to it, man. Like I guess I wasn't ready when I hit go.
Oh.
I was almost ready.
Well, almost.
But Microsoft Teams is being silly and doing silly things and taking a long time to load and what?
All right, I'll go ahead and put this one down.
We'll talk.
I was gonna tell you about my times I almost died. I almost drowned several times, and I almost got electrocuted with a huge blast of electricity one time.
Whoa!
I didn't. Yeah. And then I probably almost slid off of a mountaintop with ice around me, like 4 or 5 times. We're doing good.
Hey, you're still here.
And then who knows how many times I don't even know about.
I know.
Right? Almost, it was like inches from death.
Maybe we're always inches from death and we just don't even know it.
Well, I suppose that's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's an incredible thing. It's to me it's a miracle that we live as long as we do because there's chances to just not.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a bunch of
And yet
times
we
when
come
it's just
through.
like, yeah, it's
Things can
wild.
just fail like in any moment. Like, oh, there's your liver, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Things happen. It's
It's true.
crazy.
It's true. You're not lying. All right. Cool. Well, we'll start with this one. This is called Motivation to Finish from Anonymous. They have yeah. Oh, it's a very to the point topic, but I'm still going to put it up on the screen. Oh, I'm
Good.
glad that worked, right? Cuz I didn't even check the topic. The topic one.
Oh yeah.
But hey, OBS worked okay for me. Yay, good job. Good job,
Yay.
OBS. I'm so happy with you. All right. All right. So I'll put this up on the screen. You guys can read it aloud, or you guys can read it aloud to yourselves
You guys
while
can
I'll
read
read it
aloud,
aloud.
we'll read, but we'll just stare.
Yeah, I'll read it
Close our
silently.
eyes
You
even.
read it aloud,
Good luck.
okay? Hmm. Okay, did you guys all read it aloud?
Oh man. I certainly didn't. You would heard it.
All right, I'll put it back on the screen, and I'll read it aloud too. So, all right. So the topic says it's motivation to finish. It's from Anonymous, and it says how to regain motivation to finish what you have started. How to regain motivation to finish what you have started. Thank you, Anonymous. This is definitely one of those topics that this is a struggle for a lot of us. I know I've struggled with this a lot in my life.
Yeah.
Where it's like
Another topic curated, by the way.
oh, thank you.
Thank you,
You
August.
finished what you started. Good job,
I did.
man.
Well, August started it actually. I just finished it for him. Well, that's weird. He
Well,
finished what he had to do though, so it's not like I
right.
finished it for
And
him.
then you
And
started
then I started
your
curating
part,
and I finished.
and you finished your part, right?
That's right.
So you did good. I'm so proud.
Thank you. You did good too, Joe. I love you, man. You're the best.
I love you too. You're the best.
Oh, I knew it.
I win.
All right, well,
I knew I was
what
gonna
do we
win.
got with this topic?
Mm-hmm. So how do you regain motivation to finish what you've started? Because I am the king of starting things and then like moving on and starting a new thing. You ever been in that boat where you start something and then you go for a while?
Oh yeah.
And it's like, okay, and now I'm going to start another thing because that sounds cool, or maybe I get bored with what I'm working on or whatever, and you start something else, and then you go down the road, and then you never finish it. And then, I was like this with books for a while, where I'd start them and then I'd never finish them, and then then I was like, you know what, forget this. This is so silly. Like, why am I starting new books without even finishing the other one? And so part of it just comes down to a disciplined mindset where you start thinking in terms of, okay, I'm going to finish things, and you can start small. Like this is what I had to do, right? Where it was like to take on a big project that I know is going to take months, and I want to finish this project. I remember, for instance, the Criminal Idol book that exists out there. That was a 9-month project for me, as far as like you had written all the stuff, the artwork was already done. My job was simply to, put do the page layout and all that kind of stuff. So take your text and figure out how the pages were going to look with the art and the text and all that kind of stuff. And I just had to put all the existing stuff into place. And it was like, it ended up being like 130 pages long or something like that. So it was crazy, and I'd never done it before. And so I remember, like starting this, and I was like, I got into it a little bit and I was just so overwhelmed. And I'm like, how am I going to ever finish this? This is so huge. Right. And then
Mhm.
finally, sometimes with a project like that big, you have to just take it in little bite-sized chunks and say, "All right, I'm
Mhm.
going to do one
Yeah.
page. Let me just finish one page, or let me figure out what the background of this one page is going to be." And then I can figure out, all right, then the text block, what kind of background do I want for that? What kind of color background, and then how do I want to put these little characters in here? Because, man,
You did a great job on that book, by the way. That
well,
was so
thank
good.
you. I appreciate you saying that. It messed with my brain.
Mhm. Well, good.
Because I had to
It was
make
very
decisions,
artistic.
and I hate making decisions. Anybody else with me
Mm.
hates making decisions?
Sometimes.
And
I
then
don't like it.
sometimes you just got to
Mhm.
decide, and you just got to be like, okay, I'm gonna do it.
Mhm.
But it's like, like deciding what do I want to eat. I'll ask my kids that, what do you guys want to eat for lunch? When I have them, and then it's always silence. You
Oh,
know,
yeah. And then you have to decide for
and
them.
then
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well,
That's
I'm
not
gonna
fun.
make some bacon, and I'm gonna put squeezed cheese on it. And they're like, well, I don't want that.
Joe, of course you would say that. Of course you would say that.
But but so making decisions can be tough, and so when I was working on that project, I had to decide what character was going to go where, what drawing was going to go where, how was I going to do all this stuff, and I had to make all these decisions, and it was like blowing my mind. I was so messed with. Like, ugh. And then but finally I was just like, you know what? It's not that big a deal. I just got to make it look good. And so I'm going to just do it, right?
Mhm.
So I had to take it basically just like one page at a time or one section at a time and just kind of get an idea. And the more once you start down a path, a lot of things, a lot of ideas and a lot of thoughts will come into place once you're in motion.
Mhm.
Does that make
True.
sense? So then
That's
comes
absolutely true.
the discipline to finish after that. And that it can be more or less difficult depending on how big or important the project is. Sometimes we can freak ourselves out and be like, "Oh my gosh, this one's going to be a big deal. Like this project I can sense this is a big deal, right? It might not even be that big of a workload of a project, but you think it's going to make a big splash in whatever it is you're going to do, right? And the importance you've assigned to the task or to the accomplishment just can freak us out. And for me, I will paralyze myself in that
Mhm.
mode, and I'll just be like, oh, then I'm scared to even do anything because I feel like, oh my gosh, like this is a big deal, oh, and it gets crazy. But so what I had to do is just kind of like start finishing small things and doing
Mm.
small things and having smaller accomplishments. So then I could start developing a habit of finishing little things. Like, I'm going to finish washing this plate. I'm
Mhm.
going to finish my laundry all the way from starting to wash it to drying it to folding it. I'm going to
And
go.
each one of those things is an accomplishment.
Mm hmm. Yep. I'm going to finish each one of these steps. And when you start getting into the habit of finishing, then you can apply that in bigger and bigger and bigger things. So
Mhm.
that's probably my take to get us started. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan because this man has finished some amazingly awesome projects. You guys probably, if you're here, about Static P, about his music, about the songs that he's released and some of the projects, and it's incredible. So he definitely has a
Yeah.
habit of
Thank you.
finishing things. And so I would like to hear about his mental wrestling matches that he goes
Well,
through.
I would just say that I'm exactly as Kawaii Sosu says I am. The bestest dad ever. That would probably define me
Oh,
very well.
I agree.
No, okay, that's not true. I'm not a dad. Um, no, he was talking about you. I think it
Oh,
was
really?
probably the bacon and squeezed cheese
Bacon and squeeze
recipe.
cheese, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, thank you for saying that. You know, I definitely start more than I finish. But here's the thing. So does everybody, because that's obviously in the nature of how everything. You can't finish something you never started, right? So of course you're going to start more things than you ever finish. But here's the thing: I know way more people, especially in the music world. I know significantly more people who have started a song, who have started many songs, but have never finished a single one.
Mm-hmm.
Then I know people in the music world who have finished songs and published them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I would agree with that
I know
100%.
way more that have never finished a single song.
And they're good, and it's a shame.
And they're good. Yeah, and it's a shame. And so the thing is, starting a song and pursuing it for a time is a talent. And working that through is a talent. But finishing something is its own talent. The beautiful thing about talents is that they can be learned.
Mm-hmm.
That you can practice them and get better at them, and um, if you spend time on them, you'll get better at that talent. And finishing a project, finishing a song, finishing a piece of art, finishing anything is itself its own talent, it seems to me. And so when you're trying to get into the habit of actually finishing things, note that it's not going to be easy. It's never really easy to finish, especially big projects. It's never easy. It just takes static papa. That's funny. It just takes you just have to recognize it's a talent and you just haven't learned it yet. I mean, it's like going to the tennis court and you're like, okay, I've seen people play tennis a little bit. Like I think I saw them play tennis. Like I've seen a little bit of people play tennis. Am I going to be any good at this sport? Well, you don't just like throw your hands up when you miss the ball with your net the very first time you try to use it, and you're just like, well, I don't know how to play this game. I'm done. I don't think this game's for me. It's like, well, of course it's not. You never played it before. Like you got to learn how to play it. Same thing with like chess or checkers or any kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
And so, working up the skill of finishing things requires that you stick to the game
Mm-hmm.
and that you finish it, and then that helps facilitate how you finish things.
Mm-hmm.
There are definitely parts. There are definitely times when I'm working on something and I'm kind of moseying around. To be honest, I'm like, all right, here's this little piece here. Like the song is like 10% done, and I'm just like, just doing little things, and I'm wasting time at some point. Like literally, I'm wasting time, even though it's like 10, 20% done. I'm wasting time going dilly dallying, not finishing it. And there are times where I'm just like, you know what? Literally, if I give myself 2 hours, I can build out the rest of this song. And like, if I really want to, if I really just crank down and just go, you know what? All right, I'm gonna finish it. I'm just gonna finish it. And then all of a sudden, the things just click in my mind in a different way, and I stop trying to figure out. Um, I guess my brain stops being in a mode where I'm moving along in a um let's see. How do I explain this? My brain flips a switch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to say it, but if something switches in my brain, and the way that I think about things, the way that I calculate things, is way more just precise. And this is good enough. This is this is more value than the time that I am doing otherwise. And it's just click, 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 click. All right, the song's done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you don't want to do that all the time. You actually don't want to do that all the time. That's not healthy. That's not like you need to have time where you're allowing your creativity to flourish,
Mm-hmm.
taking your time with your project so that you can be, into it and enjoy it. But if you've gotten to a point where you're just not at that stage anymore, sometimes you just gotta let I don't know how to explain it, but you gotta flip the switch and just go, all right, the truth is the, I mean, especially for music, the returns on every little edit you make are decreasingly less and less valuable.
Mm.
Like, I can have a song and then I can make this tiny adjustment, tiny adjustment, tiny adjustment, tiny adjustment for hours and hours and hours. And the return on the value of that is diminishing because I'm not making big edits that actually people will that will truly heighten their experience to the next level,
Mm.
right? Like, there are points where you just say, this song, it would be more valuable if this song was finished right now as it is than for me to spend more time on it, and stop it from going out into the world,
Mm.
stop it from being in its finished state.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, not only that, it's also taking up my time from being able to go out and create the next song. It's stopping my time from going out and doing the next activity, whatever it is, right? So sometimes you have to kind of get your mind into the state of what's the value of what I'm doing right now
Mm-hmm.
on this project? And am I wasting my time by doing that?
Mm.
Because a lot of times that's what kind of stops us from finishing. We get so caught up in trying to be perfectionists. We get so caught up in trying to just I don't know, make it the best we can or make it our vision or whatever it is. But we get so caught up in it, we're actually getting diminishing returns on our value. So we need to take a step back sometimes and just say, am I currently losing value by doing what I'm doing? And if the answer is yes, then you need to just go, okay, then drop the extras. Drop all the extra whistles and clinks and clanks and whatever. Just drop it and finish the song.
Mm.
And then when the song is finished, you can give yourself some time to go back into creative mode if you think it's going to be valuable. But what's far more valuable is getting the rest of everything in place that you know is going to need to be there, that you should just have in place. And if you have all those parts in place, rather than moving slowly through it, if you have all the parts in place, editing it is actually easier because everything's already in place.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to add little whistles and things here and there, and this isn't just music, right? This is for everything. So I would say for any project, a lot of times I think it's better to look at something and go, what can I move forward, right? Because Joe was saying, kind of break it up into bite-sized steps. And I absolutely agree with that. What you can do is you take a step back, you look at it and you say, what could I do that would make the biggest improvement to this being like looking like it's finished?
Mm-hmm.
What could I do to make this look like it's finished right here and right now? And then take that step. No, I don't mean thwart yourself and go, oh, like something devious where you're like, oh, I've got a project due. I'll just create a bunch of empty files and make them look like, there's something in them and then send it. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff, right? Obviously.
Right.
I'm just talking about what can you do that would be like, this is a finished product, even if it's not the most perfectly written. So if it's like an essay, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you can finish the essay. And that's going to be huge. And by finish, I don't mean fully finish. I just mean get it from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
Get it from beginning to end. And then when it's done that way, if you look at it and you go, this isn't good enough, that's okay. But now you've got yourself miles ahead if you were trying to deliberate over something like, ah man, like what's a better way to communicate this one phrase? What's a better way to illustrate this concept in this little part of my essay? Just sometimes it's okay to just make it not so great and then finish it, right? And it's okay if it's not the best, most beautiful thing ever. At least it's done. Now you feel free to actually go back and be like, now I'm not working against a deadline. Now everything's done. If I have to send this, I can send this and it's done. It's not the most beautiful thing ever. It's not maybe the most, perfect essay ever written,
Mm-hmm.
but it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm free, so that clears up a bunch of stress out of my mind. And so now, instead of being in this tight, stressful bubble, which doesn't facilitate creativity all that much, you can now go back into your essay and feel no weight over how you change your words, how you add sentences and redact other ones, right? It's way better. And so what I would say is that sometimes, first of all, finishing is a talent, so don't expect to be good at it. You get good at it. Secondly, sometimes you need to just get to the end and then rework. Sometimes you just need to get to the end and say, hey, this is good enough. Sometimes you need to take a step back and look at it and say, the time I'm spending on each thing, am I wasting away my value? Is it more valuable to just literally cut this project and start with a different one? Because sometimes it is. Sometimes you're in something and you're like, you know what? There isn't actually value here. I'm wasting time deliberating over tiny details, and it would be better if I just cut my losses
Mm-hmm.
and went on with it.
Mm-hmm.
Or said, made it good enough. It's not how I want it. It's not the sound I wanted. It's not as good as I wanted it, but I might as well just get to the end. And if I get there, I can decide, is this worth finishing completely and shipping it? Or is this actually whole thing just something I need to come back to a long time from now when I got more skills, when I understand more? Because sometimes that's the case. Sometimes you're working on a project and you don't know how to finish it yet. And it's okay to put something to the side and come back later.
Mm-hmm.
But get to the end. Get to the end of your project. See what it looks like in its raw form. And then that just takes away a lot of the stress because you know it's there. And then you can then deliberate over the small details within. Um, that's my best suggestion. That's what works for me. When I go into that mode where I'm just like, let's get to the end,
Mm.
all of a sudden everything just clicks. Like I could be working on a song for like hours and hours and hours for days and months, and I've only got 20% done. And then I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just get to the end. And all of a sudden I'm just like, all right, this piece goes here, this piece goes here, this piece goes here. Click, clank, clank, clank. This thing holds this. All right, this is supposed to sound like this, so do that. Boom, 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 boom. Finished song. And I'm like, how did I do that? And then I'm like, okay, it could be better, but I finished it. And it took me like literally one day when I've been working on it for a whole month,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so sometimes you just got to go, let's get to the end and then see where you're at from there. Um, Now, obviously, sometimes a project is so big, you can't just do that. I recognize that. And sometimes there's way more components to a project than just yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So take it in bite-sized pieces, right? Um, Getting to the end doesn't mean the project is over because you might only have one part in a whole big project. Or it might be your project is like literally, you know, um, like 7 episodes of something and you have to do all the art for it, right? It's going to take a long time. And so you have to recognize like sometimes the end is just one episode, or sometimes the end is just one drawing a day, or something like that. And so it depends on what you can handle, what you can finish in a realistic manner, not just you know how good you are. We're just talking being realistic and going what's actually feasible for me. And so it's okay to step back, reanalyze what's actually realistic and feasible, what you're wasting your time on, what's giving you diminishing value as you keep on working on it more and more. All those things are good points to kind of think about, write down, and then get back onto it. So anyways, that's what I got. I know I talked for a while just to say a little bit, but I think it's that little bit is the key. Those are key things that if you can get them ingrained in your workflow, and this counts for me too. Like these are things that I need to practice more, for sure. But like I said, it's a talent. It's something that you have to practice, and yeah, absolutely. So, I'm not speaking from from a position where it's like I have the best results on this. Just that I know what has given me results in the past and how to get there and what I need to do, at least from my experiences. So these are the best things I can share. Anyways, with that, I'm gonna move on and give it over to Joe.
Well, thank you, Ryan, and I really appreciate you going through that. I appreciate you guys in the chat too. Super
Yeah, absolutely. You
Neon
guys are saying a lot of
Blue.
great things.
Knowing when to stop and reconsider things is very important, and it was funny because you were talking about that at the same time that she put that in the chat, and
Mm.
I was like, "You guys are on like the same wavelength. You guys ought to get to know
Yeah,
each
well, that
other
would
or
make sense.
something."
No, you didn't.
But then Kawhi says, learn how to enter flow state on demand, and then chunks of the project will be enjoyable to approach. And yeah, but entering that flow state, it can be a little bit tough sometimes, But like what Ryan was
Mhm.
talking about, one of the ways to achieve that is to think about the end, think about finishing, to imagine, the end product.
Mhm.
You
Yeah, just
talk.
put pieces in place, even if it's really raw.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's all you can do.
Yep. Yep. And to
Because
get
it's
to
a
the.
lot easier to flow state in that because you kind of have a rough, raw idea in your brain already. You just need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're deliberating over little tiny pieces for hours on end, trying to
Mm-hmm.
get it the perfect sound for this little bite. And it's just
Perfect.
like,
The
yeah.
perfectionism, man. Something that's gonna
Yeah,
last
sorry, I
for
didn't mean
like
to
half
interrupt.
a second, and you're like, I need to be perfect.
Hmm.
And I fall into
Yeah,
that
right?
trap all the time. It's crazy.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna talk a little bit about motivation in general too. I mean, like when you're talking about regaining motivation to build motivation in yourself. Motivation is not something that follows inspiration. Like I don't know. I guess you could say inspiration and motivation are somewhat similar because we feel inspired to do something and then we're motivated internally to go do it, right?
Hmm.
But, a lot of times people think, well, I need to get myself motivated in order to take action. And I would encourage you to think opposite. Think start taking action, and the motivation comes
Yeah.
from taking action. Even if you start taking action a little tiny bit, right? So even if like all you're doing, so if all I'm doing is I need to come up with a guitar part or I need to come up with the drum part or whatever, right? Well, for instance, okay, I have a real life example. I'm planning to start live streaming drums, like drum sessions and stuff like that. I'm finally getting all my gear in place. I've got, most of it all set up. I'm working. I, I was in the VC on the server today for a while with a few people. And I'm like tearing down my drum set and cleaning everything up and redoing a whole bunch of stuff and getting gear in the right place and all this kind of stuff. And so it's a total wreck over there right now. I don't even want to look at it. But um, so what I did was I'm starting to think I'm watching streamers and I'm seeing how they interact with people. I'm seeing how they perform. I'm seeing how like okay, these are the things that people do to have a decent sized audience while they're doing this and to make an engaging stream. Something I wanted to have fun while I was watching it too, you know.
Mm.
And there were some different elements in there, and I was like, okay, so just the other day in thinking about that, I'm like, well, I'm gonna sit down. I'm just gonna play my drums for a little bit. So I sat down and I played and I just started thinking about, okay, how is this going to roll? I started, imagining how is it going to be in a streaming situation. I'm like, okay, well, people are going to have requests of songs that I've never heard of before. And so I just like started randomly finding songs on Spotify that I'd never heard before. And I just started seeing if I could play along with them, just to see if I could hang with it. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm actually doing a pretty good job, I think. And, and then so I'm like, so then I had my computer screen turned to my face so I could see it. And like, so then I'm like reading while I'm drumming. And then I start talking and like answering while I'm playing because I'm like, you know, I don't want to, I'd like to be able to engage with people while I'm playing. And so like, it's just getting into that practicing of doing that. And I ended up playing for like 3 hours. My headphones were all like soaking wet sweat, like when I was done and everything.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But like, you know, that, you know, I started with the simple idea of I'm going to just sit down and start playing some drums. And from that little action came, oh, now I'm playing. Now I started thinking, I started remembering what I was seeing on streams, and I started like trying to think, okay, how would that feel to be in that situation? And then I'm playing, but this whole time I'm playing, and then I'm just adding more and more things to that experience while I'm going, right? Yes, Kat's a growth mindset. It's exactly right. Like you're thinking in terms of growing what you're doing. And I think it starts with action in a lot of cases. I didn't sit down saying I'm going to play for 3 hours. I sat down thinking, man, it's been a few days since I played. I feel like I ought to play some. And, then all this started coming, and I'm like, okay. And then I just kept going, and I felt more and more energized as I went. And it was great. So those are some tricks. Like as far as motivation is concerned, I would say action precedes motivation or inspiration.
Absolutely.
Don't wait to feel inspired or motivated to start taking action. Start taking action. Like I've heard artists say, sometimes I'll just start doodling. I'll just start, I'll get my hand in motion of drawing, right? And so they'll just start doodling or whatever, and then before you know it, they're starting to, think of what they're gonna make for art, whatever. Writers do the same thing, where it's like they just maybe just start writing random words, and but what they're doing is they're getting into action mode, and then that action sparks the motivation. Does that make sense? So that's one trick you can do. Another trick that I've found very useful for myself is to think of others that think of others and other experiences that I've had where I've finished or that I've watched other people finish things, and I've seen accomplishments and all that kind of stuff. And one that comes to mind is my experience. Katz is in the chat, right? We did a collaboration, and Katz did some vocal parts on it. And I remember how quick, and it was just like a seamless, quick interaction, and like everything was great from the time I gave the idea that, would you like to collaborate on this song? And it was like, yeah, okay. And then we had a meeting, and then we talked, and we figured out, like equipment, da 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 da, and like from the start to the time I had the final takes from her was 5 days.
That's awesome.
From the beginning spark of the idea to the time her part was done, 5 days. And that inspires me. Like, I think about that experience. If I'm thinking about, okay, I need to get myself to finish something. Yes, that's you. And like, I draw on that experience because it reminds me that things don't have to take as long as I think they do sometimes. I don't have to wallow around in the mud, trying to get everything exactly perfect, all this kind of stuff, and then I'll think about that experience and I'll be like, remember, like, I mean, the idea didn't even exist until that Monday. And then by Friday, her part was done. And I'm like, these things don't have to take a long time. Now, there are times, I don't know. I mean, we plan on working on more stuff in the future. That we may run into roadblocks in future projects. I don't know. They might not all go that smoothly. But I still think about that, and I'm like, if I'm stuck and I'm like, maybe I'm just like trudging around and all this kind of stuff, I'm like, it doesn't have to take this long. It doesn't have to. Like, remember that experience. And so you can think of others' experiences. You can think of other times in your own life when you were in the zone and you were moving and you were doing all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it was fun. So anyway, so that's another thing you can do. Think about those experiences, and then the third thing that the way I trick myself into motivating myself is I set timers. I know I've said this before in other topics. I've mentioned it on other, types of things, productivity, different whatever. But I'll set timers for myself, and that way it's got a twofold step to it. One, if I'm afraid of it, or if I just don't feel like doing it, or, because sometimes you just get there, you get to your desk or whatever, you pick up your instrument, and you're just like, I don't feel like doing this. I'd rather, watch Netflix, or I'd rather play Overwatch or whatever, right? And it's just like, and so I'll set a timer for myself, whether it's a half an hour or an hour or whatever, if I
that's
really,
a big move, man.
if I don't feel like doing it, I generally set it for 30 minutes, because it's like,
that's huge.
There's an end time then. It's like, I'm only going to have to suffer because, like, in the moment, I'm thinking it's going to be this pain and suffering and everything. But playing music is one of my favorite things to do, right? And, like, but sometimes you sit there and it's just like, oh, no, it's work. I don't want to do it. I just don't feel like it. So I'll set a timer and I'll be like, I only have to suffer for 30 minutes. And then it's over. And then when the timer's off, I can stop. Right? But then something interesting happens. Like, I start, and then I don't want to stop. But I make myself stop at the end of it. Even if I only stop for 10 minutes or whatever, take a break, and then come back, I make myself stop, because what that does is that sets into my mind frame, hey, if there's a timer going, I'm on a limited time. I got to get as much done as I can before this timer is done. And so then I start racing myself, which is absolutely good for me. I don't know, it might not be that great for other people. They might get sloppy, whatever. But for me to put that time constraint on there causes me to feel like, oh, I'm just like a little bit more awake. I'm a little bit more into it. I'm a little bit more focused. And, I start racing myself because I'm like, I got to get as much done as I possibly can before this timer gets done, because once the timer's done, I'm stopping. Because I know every time the timer goes off, I stop. Right?
Yeah, because if you don't stop, you'll start to notice that yourself and you won't trust yourself.
Right. Exactly.
So then eventually you won't even believe in the system. You just won't even set timers, because you're like, well, I know that the timers don't work because I never actually obey them. Yeah,
it becomes a matter of personal integrity, really, right? And so it's like, and we, I don't know, I'm a human being. I've lied to myself plenty of times. You ever lie to yourself, Ryan?
Oh yeah. Like this morning when I put an alarm, and then I was like, I'm gonna wake up when this alarm goes off at 10:45. And I did wake up, but I didn't get out of bed. Yeah, and I hit the snooze button.
Yeah.
Every time you hit the snooze button, you lied to yourself.
It's true, and it's torture.
It is.
Because waking up sucks.
This one wasn't torture, but usually it is.
Well, like,
this one wasn't torture because I had someone to cuddle with, but
well, fine, but whatever.
Yeah.
Dang it. You're going to throw me off balance.
Sorry.
Now I'm angry.
I knew it. I'm sorry.
So, but the waking up part, right? The hitting the snooze button, that cracks me up, because it's like the most excruciating thing is like hearing that alarm go off and Oh,
Yeah.
it sucks and it's painful. And then you hit the snooze button. So you sentence yourself to experiencing that again in like 8 minutes.
Again, yeah. It's so true. And this time is worse because you only fell asleep for like 5, 10 minutes, and
I
that's with
know.
nothing.
I
And you're
know.
like, oh, it's worse this time. I'm gonna hit the snooze again because I need it. I can tell I need it. And then you
But
do it again and you're like, it's not getting any better.
so here's the thing. So what's the default on snooze for like most of your guys' clocks? Because every clock I've ever had, the snooze defaults to like 7 minutes. You would think it'd be
Oh,
5
interesting.
or 10,
Hmm.
right?
Well, my phone is 10, I
Is it
think.
10?
Yeah, my phone is anyways.
Weird. Okay. Yeah, because every clock I've ever had, from the time I've set alarms and everything like that, it's always like 8 minutes.
Hmm.
Oh, I see your solution, cats. Yeah, we should all take that advice. And yes,
Yeah.
Kendra, I have been in that situation where I've had to set multiple alarms and I had to set multiple alarm devices and put them in different
Yeah.
places around my room.
Mm.
So I'd have to get up and then shut it off. And then I had
Hmm.
to make the decision, do I crawl back into my bed?
Right? Because that decision still exists. It's horrible.
Uh
Even if you
huh.
get out of bed, you can go back into it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really a lot of
True.
self-discipline, which ties in with this topic well.
Yep. Yep. So, but I'll tell you what, Anonymous, there are lots of ways to do it. And go back and listen to what Ryan had to say. The game changer, one of the biggest game changers for me was setting timers. I'll
Mm.
completely, that changed a whole lot of stuff for me. When I learned that approach, you know, it took all the teeth out of it, because if you're scared to start, if you're scared to get going or you don't feel like it or
Mm.
whatever, it takes that bite out of it because you're just like, okay, well, I'm only going to be doing this for a half an hour. Like whatever. It's not that big a deal. I'm only going to do, and then I get to stop and I can do whatever I want, right? So, but then it's crazy because you find yourself, you get into it, you know. But very very much key, make yourself stop when the alarm goes off, when the timer goes off, right?
Mhm.
Even if it's just for a few minutes, because then you have a break point and you're like, okay, I'm being honest with myself. This really happens this way. And then you start to gain some traction. The more you do it, the more motivated you feel when you do it, and the more you get done
Mhm.
in that short amount of time.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Ryan, did you have anything else on this topic?
Just a little bit. I just kind of want to
Mhm.
reiterate something you said. We've said it on the stream before,
That I'm
quite a
angry?
few times, but no, no, about motivation.
Oh.
You know, motivation is an emotional reaction. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Technically, inspiration is an emotional reaction. But anyways, um, a lot of times we put the cart before the horse, or we wait to be motivated to take action. But like Joe said, if you take action, a lot of times you might find yourself being motivated. So sometimes it's just getting started, even though you don't want to,
Mm,
and then that will create some motion. What's
mhm,
interesting about motivation and inspiration? Inspiration comes from the word inspiriat, inspirit, inspiratio. There we go, inspiratio, which is Latin, which means basically something along the lines of in the spirit,
mm,
um, which means it actually comes from as well. It comes from a sense of divinity, something that's out of your control. And
mm,
so being
mhm,
inspired is different than motivation because motivation you control. Motivation you can control. Being inspired you can't. And how is that? How are they different? Well, motivation comes from motive. Motive means you have a reason, right?
mm, mhm,
So if you have a reason for something, you have a motive. Motivation is motive in action. So if you want to be motivated, you have to start acting out the reason, and then you'll feel motivated. You'll you'll be able to continue that motive
mhm,
in motion. We will. But if you're waiting to be inspired, that's not up to you. So you should You should use inspiration when it comes, but don't rely on it, right? You shouldn't rely on waiting to be motivated. That's putting the cart before the horse, right? And you don't want to rely on inspiration, something outside of yourself, to influence you into um, into action.
Mm-hmm.
Um, being in the spirit means kind of like being a heightened. It's an emotional thing, right?
Mm.
And so just waiting for that is not gonna help you, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
just what Joe was saying. I just wanted to kind of add a little bit more to that because it's interesting, and I think it's definitely worth hearing because we all have to, at times, just bite the bullet. And I love what Joe said. If you set a timer, you know that you don't have to bite the bullet for a long time. You know that once that timer goes off, you can be done. And I think that that feels so great.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I like that. It's awesome.
Yeah, that was really helpful for me. I tell you, welcome you guys
Speaking of,
to the show. I see
yeah,
Tef in the chat here. We put a carrot in front of the horse, right?
yeah, that's right.
It's
Not
true.
the cart.
Like you can, well,
Mm-hmm.
and you can dangle a reward in front of yourself too.
Absolutely.
Like
Oh, that
like
moves.
that same
That works
principle,
wonders.
right? Like I can be
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, you know what? When I get done with this 30-minute session, I'm gonna eat some squeezed cheese and bacon.
That's right.
It's gonna be good.
Man, that sounds so salty. Squeezed
So
cheese is
good.
kind of salty,
It is, but
but
man,
bacon is even more salty.
it's so good.
Man.
So good. Squeezed cheese on just about anything is good.
Mm-hmm.
Squeezed cheese on a
Yeah.
spoon is good.
Squeezed cheese on a lamp is still good.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if it's a really old lamp from your like great grandma and it's been sitting in her house, like rotting away. It's got mold on it and it's just dusty beyond all vision. Like you can't even see what color it's supposed to be. It's just so caked in dust.
Mm-hmm.
Squeezed cheese on that is still pretty good. Well, it's better than licking it raw, that's for sure.
Yeah, maybe moldy, dusty squeeze. It's not dusty or moldy. It's good. I
Mmm.
don't know if mold could grow on it. It's so. It's like
It's
it's all
yeah, yeah,
preservatives. It's
yeah,
like-
yeah. You might be right about that. Wow,
Food
that's why
rewards
it's so
don't work
healthy.
for you, Neon Blue, because you you like to eat, not cook. I understand. You
That's
know
not
what?
true.
Here's the
You
thing.
do. Okay. Okay.
I know something that would motivate you, Ryan. When you get done with your
What's that?
timer, you can go outside and play in the snow.
Oh my gosh! I thought you were gonna say in the sun. You totally got me wrong, man. I don't know what happened, but some kind of communication got lost in the system. But geez, that sounds painful, not fun.
Yes, but it is so fun. I also like eating more than cooking.
Oh,
I
yeah,
can
that makes sense. Hmm. I actually enjoy cooking. I think it's really fun, but only if you're doing it creatively, not out of a sense of um necessity or duty, you know?
mhm.
Like if you're just cooking because you have to cook to eat, it's different than if you're like, I wanna see what it tastes like if I do this, or I wanna try this method out. I wanna try that new recipe out. I wanna try something, you know? It's a whole different feeling. And so one is a lot more fun.
Mhm. I would agree.
Or if you know something's really tasty and you're like, I'm gonna cook that, it's gonna be so good. Even that's fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What's snow, Wolfrix? It's
Well,
this
Franks, you are such a blessed human being to never
Wolfrix.
have to experience it.
It's this amazing, amazing substance that only happens when it's cold. It's
Uh-huh.
really fun to drive in. A lot of it.
Yeah,
Just slide all over the
if you're a person that
road.
likes danger, absolutely. Snow is a great thing to drive in.
Uh-huh. It's slippery.
Yeah.
You can ski on it. You can,
That
you
part
can
is actually fun.
sled on
Skiing,
it, you know.
snowboarding,
Mhm.
sledding. Ice skating, you can't do that in snow, but you can on ice, and that's
Mhm.
fun.
That's
You know, it's
true.
funny because I don't like very many physical activities, and I don't like the cold. But probably my favorite physical activity is ice skating, which is so ironic
Mm.
because it's cold.
It is cold. And when you fall, it's hard.
Yeah, that's why you don't fall.
That really hurts, man.
Try not
Like
to
every
anyway.
time I've ever fallen ice skating, it hurts so bad.
It hurts less than falling while rollerblading because on ice, instead of taking all of the stop and the friction right to your skin where it tears off because you're
Yeah, you get
skating
the
on the
road
road.
rash thing and you scrape your skin off. Like
Yeah.
I would rather
Instead,
have
you're
that
on the
than the big clunk of the ice.
well, the clunk of the ice is the brute. It's the bludgeoning force of you falling down on it and then sliding. At least it's not bludgeoning force and stop. Look, here's the difference. You take more bludgeoning damage if you stop than if you slide because the sliding helps reduce some of the energy.
Mm-hmm.
It just probably feels worse because it's cold and cold hurts.
Maybe. Maybe.
It makes your skin more sensitive to the pain.
That's possible. I don't know. We're talking
Oh,
about
you're in
non.
California. It melts as soon as it touches the floor. Yeah. Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Is snow not all magical? I thought all snow was magic snow.
Wait a minute. What snow is magic snow? Oh
All of
no.
it.
Uh,
All snow is magic
Oh
snow. It's so
man.
magical. It's so beautiful. It falls through
You
the
know what? I
air.
agree. It is actually really pretty.
Hmm. The
Hmm.
yellow stuff.
Snow is proof that pain can be beautiful.
Ooh. See, and this is the thing. Like, I wonder about you, Ryan, because you're like, you talk about how much you hate the cold and all this kind of stuff, but you also talk about how much
Hmm.
you love suffering.
Yeah, that's true. Do I say I love suffering? I love the concept and the
you
return.
you
Not
pursue
necessarily
suffering,
the
right?
suffering part. Yeah. Now I'm good.
You're like, I'll pick other things to suffer through than
Yeah,
that.
that's true. That's true.
Oh man. The brown slushy
Um,
snow.
Cats, I'm currently processing your order, but there is another one that we could do if we wanted.
Sure.
Order. Topic, I meant to say.
Yeah, August. August, you're here and we have a topic from you. So yeah, while you're processing, it's funny, you're like, Cats, I'm processing your order.
Yeah, that was inspections, man.
Do August's, Cats even says. Well, now I don't want to because
Hmm.
you said so. Oh wait, I'll set a timer.
Ooh,
That'll make me want to do
oh man.
it.
They have to race through that topic. I don't
I'm
even know if I'll
kidding.
understand it.
We're not gonna do that. But anyway, anonymous. Thank you so much for the topic. Hopefully, some of what we had to say helped. And yeah, feel free.
Hmm.
You know, if you have any other questions, any other topics, whatever, just go to don'tworrywednesday.com, click the submit a topic button, and we'd be happy to do it. We'd be happy to talk about it. So yes, 30 minutes, ready, set, go. Here we go. We're moving on to August's topic, and this is called moving. That's what it's been titled. And what I will do is I will get it up here on the screen for you guys so you guys can check it out. And then I'll read it for you. So, da, 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 in just a second. You know things about moving? Yes, I know things about moving. Moving is fun. But anyway, all right, here's the topic. This is from August called Moving. Hello, hello. For my slice of worries, I find myself in a place where I may be choosing to move 2 states away. While I feel this is the right decision for me, I honestly feel anxious to be leaving. While some of my family will be eventually moving up to the same state with me, I'm sad to be leaving them behind as I truly love my family. I know I'm always a shortish plane ride away, but it won't be the same. Even the times where I lived a few cities away for school, I always came home every single weekend. They're all excited for me, but I'm scared I may close myself off from being all alone as I struggle to process such a drastic change for me. Have you all had similar moving experiences? And this is from August. So August, you're here in the chat. Thank you for the topic. So So are you moving all by yourself? So like you're the only person that's moving to this new place? Um and oh, of course, you're very welcome for reading it. Okay, so you know,
Hmm.
um honestly, this yes, Kat says that's hard. Um and you'll be by yourself for at least 1.5 years ish. Okay. Um, honestly, I have to say that yeah, it can be a little bit scary. It certainly can be a little bit scary. But part of me feels like you could be excited for this.
Hmm.
And like I personally, I remember when I first moved away from the city where I grew up. Um well, okay, I live near Lansing, Michigan, and I moved to East Lansing, Michigan, and then I moved to Grand Ledge, which is a suburb of Lansing. So like I was always in this Lansing area of Michigan, right? But when I first moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan, I was going by myself. I had a job lined up. I had all that kind of stuff, all that whatever, and I had my place figured out. I had gone over there, everything like that. I was really excited to get over there, and I was going to be living by myself in a rental house.
Mm.
And I was gonna have my own place, nobody else with me, blah 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 blah. It was great. And you get to a new place, and depending on your work, like I worked at a music store. I worked in the repair shop part of a music store, and they transferred me to a different store, and there a whole new people, a group of employees that I had never met before, coworkers, and we're all musicians, right? Because we work in a music store. So I guess that kind of helped because then we'd get together after work and we'd jam or whatever, you know. But it was exciting to me to move to a new place away from where I had grown up because quite honestly, I didn't really like where I grew up. I live here now again, and I mid Michigan, it's kind of blah,
Hmm.
you know,
Isn't everywhere kind of blue?
kind of, you know, but
If you want to look at it that way.
if you want to look at it that way, I suppose. But I don't know, it was just too familiar, and I had this adventurous spirit, right? And I wanted to go and go to new places. And Kalamazoo, back at the time, like now, I hear Kalamazoo's kind of rough and bad, and there's all kinds of crime and everything there.
Mm.
But when I
Yeah,
was
back in the day
moving
it was
there
all right.
before, it wasn't so bad. It was like, there's a lot of artistic stuff going on. There's a lot of music going on. There was a lot of stuff to do. It was really cool. So like, if you look into what's in your area, it can be really, really exciting. Then I got moved to Traverse City, Michigan, which is like a resort area, beautiful area. And, you know, when I moved there, I was also living by myself at first. And the same type of thing. You can embrace that move. You can embrace the fact that you've got a whole new group of people to meet, a whole new group of people to get to know. And even though it can be a little bit scary and a little bit nerve wracking, August, I know you're going to be okay. And even with the fear involved, there's excitement to be had in this. There's adventure to be had in this. And if you can embrace the adventure and embrace the excitement, what you'll find is, the more you start giving thought time to those things, how exciting this could be, how much new stuff you could experience. The quieter and quieter the fear voice will become. So anyway, that's hopefully Ryan's had a chance to uh well, I don't know. I'll just start. I'll just give it over to Ryan.
Yep. Thank you, Joe.
You've moved a lot
Appreciate
farther
it.
than I have. So, I'm going to give it over to you.
I suppose. I suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah. I guess
multiple
I'm literally
times.
on the opposite side of the world now.
Yeah. But even
Um.
before that, you
Or
moved like
Yeah.
half of the United States away, right?
Yeah, I moved to
So,
Colorado. It's pretty good.
yeah.
I liked Colorado. It was really great. Actually, Colorado is probably my favorite place to live
Mm.
to date. Um, I'm glad we did that. That was really cool. Um, yeah. Okay, so first of all, August, I love you. You're so awesome. You're an awesome, amazing person, and you inspire me. And you're just awesome. I really like you. I really like you. And um, I like what you said here. You said, um, there's definitely some excitement, enough to make me feel like I'm able to do it and can be happy. Here's the thing. Um, that take it, right? If you recognize you can be happy, then you don't need much else, right? If you recognize that you can be happy, it gives you the mentality to get through whatever it is you have to get through to be happy. If you recognize that you can be happy, then happiness is obtainable,
Mm.
right? No matter what's going on in your life. And so I think that right there is a big, um, I guess it's a big statement, and it's a really helpful one. So I would recommend that. Recognize you can absolutely be happy with wherever you go. That's the main thing. The main thing is you can be happy anywhere, and then wherever you go, you can be happy. Like that's huge. Um, then wherever you go, even if it's away from the people you know, the family you're used to, you know, the shops you're used to going to and the food that you used to get, you know, all of those things. You can still be happy. You know, I moved to Australia recently, and the food here is different. Like what's on the shelves at the store is not what I'm used to. Um, but all the more exciting to experiment with things, right? Now I've got a whole new set of items. Now a lot of it is the same, but there are a lot of items which they just don't have, or they have different versions of it and I have to try them and figure out which one's going to be the best. Or you know, just different things like that. Different kinds of cheeses, different kinds of breads and so on and so forth. So it's like it's exciting because you can experience something new, and even though it's not what you are used to and what made you happy before, you can find new things that will make you happy. So just know that, yeah, you can be happy. You said I've been happy before and I just know I can do it anywhere. Yeah, like you guys say. Yep, absolutely. um and so I think that's a really important thing to notice because it helps resolve a lot of that anxiety. I get, you know, moving away from your family, you know, that you love them, and that's awesome. That's so good and important, and I'm happy to hear that because, wow, that's just such a lovely thing. And I get that it can be hard. Um, but I can tell you that whatever the experience is that comes to follow is one that will be worth taking up as long as you decide to make it worth it. You can grow from an experience. Right? I mean, every time we grow, it's usually because we're outside of our comfort zone, because we're outside of our, you know, little bubble that we make for ourselves. We can grow inside of that too, absolutely. But if you can experience something outside of your comfort zone and you make it a point to use it for good, to use it for self-growth or whatever it is, you absolutely can, and you what do we call that? Um, you flourish and fruit, I guess. I want to say you fruit from that experience. It's a weird thing to say. It's not how you say that. Anyways, um, much fruit is gained from the experience when you decide that you will gain fruit from it. And so this one's all the same. Yeah, you're moving away from friend and family and so on and so forth. Um, but I think it's a lot like what Joe said. There's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot of new people that you might meet. Um, and the love that you had for your family doesn't diminish, and eventually they'll be with you again. And there's so much to experience. I'll tell you, for me, living for the little bits that I have in my life alone, or by myself or without my family, whatever it is, right? Just living without my family, um, for months on end and so on and so forth. That's when I learned how to get good at cooking, which was a lot of fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that. Um, I had to go to the store and buy my own food and stuff like that, and that was like an experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned to enjoy that. Um, that can be fun. Um, just the freedom of having to take care of yourself, and also even more important for me, the freedom of not having to take care of necessarily everybody else's problems that aren't mine to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, my family isn't very pushy. They don't request a whole lot from me, which is lovely. Um, and I'm very blessed for that experience. I've been in scenarios where that has been the case. I've been in families or with families that do that. But to kind of just be able to relax and not have um, everybody else's chores on my plate, it's really, really nice. And it taught me some autonomy, some self-respect, some ability to carry out things on my own and take responsibility. And those are all good things. And also allowed me to relax when I wanted to relax.
Mm.
It allowed me to like actually fully let go when I wanted to fully let go. And that was a huge thing.
Mm.
Because when you're surrounded by people all the time, it can be very hard to do that. It can be very hard to find that space. It can be hard to find that experience. I mean, even something as simple as just singing. If you want to get better at singing, you got to sing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you sing, everyone else can hear it, so you're bothering them. And you don't really want to bother them, so you don't sing.
Mm.
Or, things like that. It's just everyday things. And I'm not saying all of that is bad. In fact, I want to say a lot of that is very good because it teaches us and it helps us to love, right? And that's very good. But my point is, um, leaving your family for a time can be a very useful and helpful and enjoyable thing. And it's kind of what makes you your own person. A lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of just in human nature to gain more respect for someone once they've been on their own. This is an interesting thing. I'm sure you might have heard of this before. There are tribes, ancient tribes, and even possibly some tribes that might live today in Africa, that they have coming to what do you call that? They have a ceremony which they do. It's like a coming of age ceremony. It's like a ceremony where they prove that they're an adult
Like a
from
bat
being a
mitzvah.
child. And it's not a bat mitzvah. That's a celebration. It's not quite the same as a ceremony.
Okay.
Um, well, no, sorry, that's a ceremony. It's not quite the same as a whatever the word I said before. Jeez, now my brain. Okay, anyways, my point is I said ceremony, but I didn't mean necessarily like a ceremony like a celebration. I meant ceremony like a ritual. And that
Gotcha.
ritual for a lot of these tribes is you are going out into the wilderness and surviving for 2 weeks out there, and we're not going to have any influence. And if you make it back alive, you're an adult. That's how there certain societies have done it. There are a lot of other ones. They have a specific way to celebrate or to inaugurate or to cause someone to like move from that position of I'm a child to I am an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have that much in America anymore. That whole thing has been gotten rid of. Um, a lot of people would argue for the worse. Some people would argue for the better. It can be either way, depends on how you take it. But here's the thing. A lot of people, when you go out on your own for a while and people see you again, especially family, you'll find that there's a different air about their respect for you. There's a different way that they treat you. There's a different way that they um respect your autonomy. And I think that's an example of that is the chore thing, right? They'll stop, they're gonna take back their own things that they're supposed to be doing around the house. Like if you leave them for like a week, or yeah, well, let's say you leave them for a couple of months and you come back, and they had to do the trash on their own, they had to do the dishes on their own, they had to do they had to take care of themselves, and they had to pick up all the chores that you were doing for them,
Mm-hmm.
which they, you know, they had to do anyway. So it wasn't your fault that those chores existed. You just participate in making those chores necessary because you create your own trash and waste and so on and so forth. But
Mm-hmm.
regardless, they had to take care of it for a while. Then you come back and they've gotten into the habit of doing that for themselves. It's no longer like you're the child that has to participate in to hold their weight. Now you're an adult and there's a sense of like, yeah, they're just going to pull their weight because they're an adult. But it kind of allows the family to start pulling their own weight better, which is weird. It's a weird dynamic, but I've seen it many, many, many times where the child leaves the parent for a while and the parent becomes a better person, at least in terms of taking care of themselves, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Or, or the other way around. The child learns how to take care of itself better, both. And so all of these things are things to look forward to, possibly. All of these things are just possibilities of reasons that, hey, when you go out there and you go off on your adventure, you might find yourself returning to an even greater amount of love and respect for each other. I mean, my mom and I have a really profound, really deep relationship, and I don't think most parent children don't have the kind of relationship that my mom and I have. We can talk to each other and just like give each other advice. Like she comes to me for advice sometimes, from time to time, and I come to her for advice. You don't get that a lot in a lot of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But part of the reason that the main reason that exists is because we both have humility and respect. We both recognize that each other is good at things that we're not, and we can let go of our pride and just engage in that way, and it's so fruitful and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't come without recognizing first that I'm a respectful person, or that I'm capable of taking care of myself, that I'm capable of going out on an adventure, leaving to Colorado for 7 years and coming back, right? That that I have that I'm worthy of that respect, right? And sometimes there's this thing that kind of clicks in our brains, even if it's not like intentional, even if it's not even noticed. It's just when we see someone go off and they return to us, we have a different way of looking at them.
Mm.
And we look at them like they're a full-fledged adult, as opposed to that child we grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's that's something to look forward to. It might be uncomfortable, it might be different, but it's something definitely worth looking forward to if you haven't already experienced that. Now, August, I see you've written a lot in chat, and I haven't been reading it, so I apologize. I will do that now, but I'm going to give it over to Joe if Joe's got anything he wants to add or say in contrary.
Say in contrary, I'm gonna argue with
In
you.
contrast, yeah. You want to argue, man?
Yeah, I'm gonna argue with everything you
You
said
want to argue?
because what you
Awesome.
said was amazing, and I can't hold a candle to it. So I'm going to be spiteful and argue.
Oh, that's too real, man. That's funny.
Yes, I know. Wolfrix, you should submit your topic. I'm sure it's a wonderful topic. So yeah,
Hmm.
just go for it, man. Um, so yeah, August, you've got a lot in the chat here. You said
Mm.
I've been happy before. I just know I can do it anywhere, like you said. I think the one thing I know I need at least for I think this is one thing I know I need at least for a moment in my life. I care so much that I'm always aware of their problems and never really get a moment of peace in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
think you said it better than I could. Yeah, that's
mhm.
exactly it.
Yep, and you've been so used to taking care of yourself and others. It's definitely going to be a change to just have yourself 24/7,
Hmm.
for sure. But that's beneficial, right? And so here's the thing, like, you know, it sounds to me like you've got a pretty good family situation and they're encouraging this and, this is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that.
Hmm. Because I've definitely gotten experience. I've had experience with families that are not like that at all. They're not supportive of
Mm,
a child leaving at all. I've experienced this with
mm,
multiple families. One that I was extremely close with, um, and like it creates a huge burden when that
yeah.
situation occurs, right?
Yeah.
Because then the child is torn, there's all this kind of stuff. There's guilt tripping going on. It's just
Mhm.
ridiculous. And then, like, you
Oh, it's
never
horrible.
get a chance to come into your own. You never get a chance to grow up. You never get a chance to, grow out of the shadow of the family, whatever dynamic that is. And I remember counseling a friend of mine. Well, actually, it was his bride to be. um they were talking about, he was going to be moving because there were no good jobs in the area where they were living up in northern Michigan. And so at the time, Kyle, Diana, and Ryan were all out in Colorado, and he was going to go out and he was going to stay out there too. And he was going to there were lots of jobs available. And so he's like, I'm going to, and there was nothing holding them back, right? But there was this family dynamic that his bride to be, his fiance, were they engaged at the time? I think
Yeah.
they were.
Um, yeah, I believe they were. If they weren't, it was
They
real
were at
soon.
least engaged, and then it wasn't long.
Yeah.
But I
Oh
remember.
wait, yeah, they were engaged. They were engaged because they were engaged for like 10 years.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Um, yeah, it got really weird because she was really really torn about it, and I remember her asking about that, and I said, honestly, you can do whatever you feel comfortable with, but here's the thing. And August, I know you're not really in a relationship, but I don't know. I guess I felt led to say this because it's related.
Mm.
What I told her was that, look, you can choose whatever you want, but if you decide to not go when he moves out there, if you decide to not eventually, kind of figure things out and get out there with him and go with him, he will always feel like he's second place and playing second fiddle to your family
Hmm.
if you don't figure out how to do that, right? Good. Good, August. No significant others yet so far. That's perfectly okay. In
Yeah, that's
fact,
okay.
it's preferable, in my humble opinion.
I think it's preferable if that's the case. Then it's because you're where you're supposed to be
Hmm.
then.
Yeah, I see Ryan and his wife. I see Cats talking in the chat about her partner, and I'm just sitting there, like, all these romancy pants people, like.
Hmm.
Fine, do your thing, man. Go be you. Yes, whatever. But anyway, that it creates a weird, weird dynamic. Romantic pants are on. Whatever.
Nice.
I'm turning it back to Ryan.
Come on.
Don't even look at me right now. I'm giving you 10 seconds of silence. I'm
Oh
kidding.
man.
All right, all right. No, so that's really great because what that's going to do, that's going to help foster the sense of adventure. That's going to help foster the sense of feeling something new. That's going to, there's going to be a lot of good that comes, and it's great that they're supportive. So I guess, is the issue just a fear? Is it just really just like a fear of the unknown in this situation? Because, like, what, I know that I've felt scared of things before. Um, yes, you have a very welcome and loving face, Ryan. It's
Thank you.
I switched to it too late.
It was too late. Oh,
Dang
that's
it.
funny.
They might have caught the tail end of that look, but anyway,
There you go. That's all right.
whatever. So anyway, my train of thoughts all gone. Um um as you're doing this, if it's just a fear that's holding you back, if it's just a fear that you're feeling a little bit of an apprehension for, one of the things that I've discovered, you guys are all getting all lovey dovey. I didn't mean to move it in that direction. Stop it. We're talking about moving by yourself.
That's awesome.
um,
Poor Joe. I mean that it's
give you my
like your mind
mean
is
look.
getting thrown every which way at the moment.
It is, man. You guys are ripping it apart. Like,
Yeah. Come on, guys, let Joe talk.
If it's just the fear, I just want to get through this one last bit, and then I'm done, and then you guys can be all whatever you want. If it's just fear and excitement are the same bodily response. That feeling you feel inside when you're afraid is the same feeling as when you're excited. You get that little drop in your gut, like it's like that, whew, and the adrenaline and all that kind of stuff, the tension, the heightened awareness of things and everything like that, right? Like that thing you feel when you fear something, you just label it fear because it's something that you're afraid of instead of something you're excited about, but it's really kind of the same thing. Right? And when you can learn to shift that, when you can learn to recognize that this, I feel the same as when I'm excited, it's just labeled fear because it's something that I have told myself I'm afraid of. You can learn to flip it over on yourself and be excited for it. So, I don't know, that's all. And I just need to get through
Awesome.
that. So
Yeah. You did it, man. You did it.
Yeah,
I think that
Cats,
was valuable.
let Joe talk. You're one of the perpetrators here, dude. Like
Cats, you're such a dude. All right. Well, I don't have much to add. I mean, I could, talk about how traditional families used to grow up with each other and how much strain that causes on someone's mental development. I think there comes a time in your life where you get stuck in a position and it's not your best self and it isn't your true self. Like it isn't who you are. You're just filling a role because of your family's expectations and so on and so forth. And that becomes unhealthy. And so there are times in life where moving actually generates, um, you know, the best version of yourself. A version of yourself where you can be who you're meant to be rather than being who your family is pushing you towards, or that role that you're fulfilling in there without necessity. I think a lot about ancient Japan and how they all live in their, like Joe said a word. I think it was like living in your family's shadow. Yeah, and in ancient Japan, they were all living in each other's like family shadow, and there was like a tree of just family shadow, family shadow, family shadow. It's like this is our this is our establishment, and so they lived that life of honor and so on and so forth, which some of that was very good, and some of it was really, it created a culture of, geez, how do I say it? It created a culture of fear, and it created a culture of just try to blend in and don't stand out. Just try to blend in and don't ever do anything great. Literally don't do something great because you'll stand out too much and your family will hate you for it. So you don't want to do good things that are overwhelmingly good, and you don't want to do bad things that are overwhelmingly bad. You just want to be a shadow.
Mm.
You want to fill that role, and you don't want to do any more because you will get criticized. People will be jealous of you, and you'll get criticized. People will be angry at you, you'll get criticized. Whatever it is, right? Some conformity, yeah. And so that's still a little bit of a problem today in Japanese culture, though it's kind of leaving, which is great.
It's a
But
bit of a
it
problem
sort
in
of comes from,
a lot of different areas, to be honest.
yeah, it's a problem in a lot of different areas, and it's a
It's
problem
a
in the United
problem in the
States of
United
America, just
States.
depending on the family.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of stems
Or the
from the
area,
family. It
too.
stems from, what's that?
Peer groups can be that way, too. Different,
Oh yeah, peer groups can
like
absolutely, yeah.
locations, certain areas, it can be it doesn't have to be family. It can be all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah, that's very true. So, I'm not saying that's your situation, August, but what I can say is that um, you might find yourself in August you didn't know existed, and one that you're very happy with, even more than you're already happy with, um, because you will be without burden to be yourself, and you'll be forced to be yourself if you want to take care of yourself to some degree. And so I don't know. I'm excited for you. I am actually excited for you. I think this is going to be super awesome. I loved moving out to Colorado. It was so cool. I love moving out to Australia. It's very cool. I really enjoy it. I think it's great. Yeah, I'm far away from family here. I'm really far away from family here. Um, and I'm excited for when I get to go home and spend time with them again. Um, and that's personally part of the reason why it's going to be, for me, the hope is to have two homes, one here in Australia, one in Michigan, so that I can kind of go back and forth at least once a year. But it's great. It's exciting, and it's fruitful as long as you make it. So I'm excited for you, August, and I look forward to hearing updates, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
August, you say you feel the shaping from needing to fulfill a role for your family. I've made a good part of it me, but I think you're right that there's a part of me that has yet to reveal the true me. That's a good way to look at it. We all are a
Yeah.
little bit shaped by our family experiences, but really, you
Oh
are an
yeah.
individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the more you can remember that, hey, I might be a little bit different. I don't have to adopt, every single, I don't have to conform to whatever this is. Um, but yeah, no, you're doing awesome, man. I am proud of you,
Yay.
and I'm excited for
Me
you, and I'm
too.
a little bit jealous of you because you get to go start
Mm,
on this new adventure, man, and it's
that's true.
cool.
That's true.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so have fun with it and be excited because it is something worth being excited about. And yeah, so awesome. Thank you for the topic, and we will move on. Katz, your topic is up next. Hey, Riku, welcome.
Hey
Great to
Riku,
see you.
welcome.
Um,
You were you were in Joe's voice for a little bit, right? Right when I first started talking to him.
yes, he said, I spoke with an accent, and he said I sounded like you. He's like, you've been talking to Riku.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
like,
like,
I have been talking to Riku.
you've been talking to Riku, haven't you? You've got specifically her version of the German accent, the tone and the pronunciations of the characters. It was a very Riku stylized speaking uh of words. I liked it.
yeah, I don't know. It was good. I don't know if I could recreate it right now.
I don't
Besides,
even remember.
I'm trying to get the next topic up. So, oop.
Mhm.
um,
I'll mark this one as answered.
yeah, mark that one as answered. I'm gonna get Cat's topic up here.
Mm,
This is called "Non-Breath Oblige" by Pinocchio P. Sounds
yeah,
interesting.
apparently that's the name of a song.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fantastic. And it even starts with a cool thing. Here we go. All right, I'll get it up on the screen so I can read it. You guys can read it with me. And we'll go from there. So, all right, here it is. Non-Breath Oblige by Pinocchio P, submitted by Cats. Hi, you guys need topics? I got topics. I recently took a closer look at the lyrics of Non Breath Oblige by Pinocchio P, and it's definitely A lot to digest in the span of 3 minutes, but I feel like the general themes could make a good topic. One of the big things I got from this song was the conflict of comparing your state of mind with the general state of the world. As a result of this, we feel obligated to hold our breath, non breath oblige, haha, get it? Because there are other people suffering in the world. Our problems may feel insignificant to what others are going through, especially in a digital age where we have more access to what is going on in the world, good and bad. How do I help when they're all the way across the world and I'm here? Though I'm not sure if this is intentional by Pinocchio, another thing I took from the song is this idea of going out in the world and realizing people don't want me here, breathing, living, no title pun intended. Not me specifically, of course, but groups of people for things they can't control: race, gender, sexuality, class, etc. I love the internal conflict that Pinocchio uses going back and forth. I want to live, but they say I'm better off dead. I want to die, but they want me to live. It's like a seesaw of this desire exist in peace mixed with hatred from others to this feeling of hopelessness, but knowing if I were to die, people would care. If I die, I'm letting the hatred of others win. I don't know if this came out as word vomit, but that's how I roll. Thoughts? If you need a more specific question, how do I navigate my own feelings when there's so much going on in the world? Note, I don't mean me literally. I mean you, unnamed listener, who may or may not relate to the themes of the song. From Cats. Thank you, Cats, for the topic. And yeah, this is definitely there's some depth to this one. I can feel some philosophicalness coming. Gonna be good.
Yeah, it's one of those, which is great.
Yeah.
Always love these.
Improv topic. Good job. I'm impressed. And thank you. You know, like we put the shout out right there for submitting a topic, and you were on it. You were on it like
Thank you. Thank you.
stank on. Yeah.
Toast?
Yeah, because toast is stanky.
Wow.
So
You can make it stanky, I guess.
you sure can.
I love this stank of toast.
I love
Stank
that
so
stank.
good.
I love that stench.
Ooh, cheese. Like squeezed cheese.
Squeezed cheese doesn't stink.
No, it stank.
Doesn't stink.
You know why? Do you keep it cold?
No.
Oh no? Oh, okay.
No.
Because the cold things don't smell very strong.
No, I don't keep it cold. Stays in the can.
Okay.
Blue cheese stinks. Limburger cheese really stinks. You can keep that in a fridge, in a Ziploc bag, in another Ziploc bag, in a Tupperware container, in a jar, sealed, in the fridge, and you will still smell it outside of the house.
Oh, is that the cheese that smells like corpses?
Poop.
Oh, that's one that smells like poop.
Poop or corpses, I guess it's all.
What's the corpse
smells
cheese?
really bad. It might be.
There's a foot cheese, a corpse cheese, and a poop cheese. So I don't know which one is which. I just know they exist and they're really stanky.
Stanky cheeses, man, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
No, but I like this topic. Yeah, because it's absolutely true. You know, like we are taught. You know, one of the things, bruh. What are we even talking about right now? We were talking about this topic. You were improving with the topic. We're improving with the answer, apparently.
Yeah, well, quite. It's like, oh my gosh. I'm always reminded of like when you improv, some people are not that great at improv, and some people are. And one thing that's funny is when their improv always leads to the same exact thing. So it's like always goes back onto the topic of squeezed cheese. And that can be really good improv sometimes. And it's like, it's not a matter of how good you are at improv. If you are really good at it, you can bring the topic back every time to the same point.
Yeah.
And just like, oh my gosh, how is he doing this?
You always find those little connections, right?
Yeah.
Yes. But I specifically, I really liked the second part of this where you're talking about, you know, how there are people, where did I say, groups of people. Oh, people don't want them to be there. People for things they can't control, like race, gender, sexuality, class, all that kind of stuff, right? There's so much discrimination. There's so much, and that thing that exists in this world, racism, discrimination, all that kind of stuff. I don't think there's anything that charges me up more than
Mm.
that, except for romance. Um,
Oh man.
I'm kidding. Y'all are fine. Um, but like that makes me more upset, and I've noticed this throughout my life. It's been consistent throughout my life. Anytime I'd see any kind of discrimination or racism or anything like that, there's nothing that makes me more upset than somebody who, looks down on somebody because of something they can't control, like because of their inclination for who they desire, right? Some of those things we cannot control. Now, we can control our response to it, but we can't necessarily control the desire that we have, right? And,
Mm-hmm.
just because somebody, is of a different color skin or from a different area or whatever, and like all this stuff, it's like, dude, that is a human being. And you should respect that fact. They're no different than you. And how would you feel if they were talking like that about you? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gets into that toxic mentality. It's that toxic. We just talked about the family thing, and how it can be also in different cultures and all this kind of stuff in different areas, different whatever. I see people who have this immense pride because of a college they graduated from, and they like have to be like
Mm.
this certain kind of person, and everybody else is kind of trash or whatever, or like they're fans of something, and so they have to like group together and badmouth other people, and it seems so silly to me and stupid, and it makes me mad that people actually hurt other people over it.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's been a lot of that throughout history. A lot of that
Yeah.
throughout history. And yeah, so
Yeah,
anyway, I
that's been
really
an
resonated
unending
with
thing.
that, Cats. So thank you for putting that on there. Uh, You said discrimination part definitely struck a chord since I'm in social problems class this semester. Makes me want to dissect it. Oh man,
Mm.
I'd like to hear some of the stuff you learn in that class, but before I get carried away, I'm gonna turn it over to Ryan, and I want to let him speak on this topic. So Ryan, it is
Mm.
all
Oh,
yours, my friend.
it's kind of funny. I took the opposite. I thought she was teaching the class, not she was taking the class. But she's probably taking the class because that makes more sense.
Ah,
For some
yes.
reason, I was just thinking she was teaching it. I was like, that's a good class to teach, man.
Man,
But
if I taught
okay. Oh
that
well,
class,
whatever.
I'd yell at those students like all day long because I'd be upset.
Yeah, you're taking it. Yeah, you're in a sociology minor right now. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, there's so many points to hit on. I don't know where to start with this. Um, and sometimes there's also like at the same time, it's like a lot of it speaks for itself too, right? One thing about these kinds of philosophical questions, we can all derive different responses to them, if you want to call this philosophical. Um, but sometimes it's also um, it kind of leaves you just thinking like, oh, okay, sure, I don't know what to do about that. It is what it is, I guess. And here's the thing. I think um, love solves most questions, including this one, I suppose, if you will. You know, whether we're talking about, the conflict of their haters telling them to die, and you're like, you're better off dead, and then but then people would suffer because you died because they love you, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also, the conflict of race and sexuality and so on. There's also the conflict of just um, the inner battle with yourself, et cetera, et cetera. There's all these conflicts. And there's also, like you said, the conflict of how you see the world versus or how you're, I guess, experiencing the world versus how it really is, how you're dealing with the world when you don't need to be, all of these things. I think Love and humility, I think, really go a far way in solving a lot of this. You know, humility is the understanding of value, recognizing your value compared to the value of everything else around you, and recognizing that, well, you're not the most valuable, but not everybody else, and no one is more valuable than you either. You share that value and equality, but there are certain things that you are more valuable than. For example, you know, Joe pointed something out, like your sexuality or your gender, your race, stuff you can't pick. You're just stuck with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're born with that. It's like, well, you are more important than those things,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you don't need to sit there and um, reconcile with it. You don't need to define yourself entirely by those qualities. You can recognize, like, yeah, I was born with this race. I was born this gender. I was, you know, because of experiences in my life, I tend to like cars more than I like spaghetti or whatever it is, right? It can be anything. That it's important to not get so into it where you're defining yourself by those terms and as if they are the root of you, because they're just a part of you, but they're certainly not the root, by any means. They're not even close to the root of what you are. They're just a part of what you are. They're a thing of what you are, and a lot of those things are out of your control. Some of those things are in your control, and some of those things are in our control, but we don't know it, so they're out of our control. So it's like recognizing that in others, recognizing that in yourself, really helps to navigate the world. So when you're dealing with things like, let me see, I gotta find this part of it. Comparing your state of mind with the general state of the world. You know, um, a lot of times you're gonna meet people that you just don't understand. The world is going to be going crazy, and you can't do anything about it, because people are themselves, and people spin lies, they spin propaganda,
Mm-hmm.
um, they entertain different thoughts and that aren't good. You know, people will be people. But when you actually get down to it and you talk to those people, if you talk to them with a state of love in your mind, you will pull out of them, generally speaking, you will pull out of them goodness. Now, it's not going to happen every time, but a lot of times, in my experiences, if you just love people, and I don't mean like, oh, I love people, I'm a people person. I mean, no, you love people, you love on people, you look at them and you want the best for them and you treat them that way. You treat them like they're valuable, like they're real human beings. In that moment, a lot of times what I find is you pull the best out of them. You 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 accidentally start training them to be a better person. And so you've got this conflict of like the whole world that you're up against. And it's funny because you can change the whole world by just encountering a person and being love for them, being a small part of what's encouraging their best. And that's how you change the world. So it's like you got this idea of like, well, how are we supposed to confront the whole world? How are we supposed to make big changes? I live across the whole world, from them. You know, what am I supposed to do? And it's interesting because those little things add up, and you do change the world by how you act in it. Your actions do matter. The way you treat other people does matter. The way you treat yourself does matter because in the grand scheme, all of it plays out. In the grand scheme, all of it plays out and you do not know the reaches or the ineffable, like just momentous things that your part plays in this world
Mm-hmm.
and all that will come of it. And if you go through your life with humility, recognizing the value and where to serve that value, where to discard the value, like just understanding what's important and why it's important, and then also have love in your heart, you're not going to go wrong. And you are going to make the world a better place, even though you think that you are just this little thing no one wants around. You think, oh, I'm just this little, I'm the person that this one certain class of people doesn't like. They wish I didn't exist because I'm messing with their world. I'm the person that's messing with their stuff. Because I exist in the world, they're unhappy. And it's like, okay, sure. But here's the thing. They probably haven't encountered you in who you really are in your heart, in your soul, in a way that you're pouring out to them the reality of love
Mm-hmm.
and humility. Because if they had, they probably wouldn't see you that way.
Mm.
And if they do see you that way, regardless, then perhaps that will change over time. Perhaps it won't. But most of the time, people come around.
Mm.
And that's a pretty significant importance. Because here's the thing, even if it was only some of the time, you'd make the world a better place. You'd make the whole thing, everything would change because of you. Because you only have to affect one person's heart. And that goes forward. It's one of the beautiful things about life is, and love, and I'm not even talking about necessarily romantic, just love, is like, there's this line in a song, I've quoted this before, and it comes from a song, it's one of my favorite songs. It's called The Summons. And in The Summons, it's a Catholic hymn, or maybe it's a Christian hymn, I don't know, whatever it is. It's a hymn that we sang at church. And in the song, it isn't written like it's supposed to be a love song. But when you read it, you're like, this is a love song. It is a love song. And one of the things it says is this notion of, I grow in you and you grow in me. It's interesting because like when we connect with each other and then we depart, we've grown in each other, and that remains with us until we die. Our interactions remain with us. And who we become because of someone else and their growing in us, their activity in us, that love that lives on in our life, continuing to change how we are going to act, continuing to change how we are going to treat others or take others at face value, change how we see things, our perspectives. All of that lives with us because of the people we encountered along the way. And if you can make that encounter loving, that's huge. If you make it hateful and spiteful, that's huge too. But not in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing, there's a lot of people out there that will make it a hateful experience. But what's amazing is that it doesn't take too many good ones. But we have those.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't take too many good ones to make the world at least okay and livable. Feel like it's worth living here, right? It doesn't take too many good ones. In fact, most of us live our lives with just a couple of people who we experience that cherishing love in. A couple of friends, right?
Mm.
Doesn't take too many to make life worth living. I mean, sorry, I should say this differently. To make life feel like it's worth living because the good is so good. And so, as we go forward in the world, and you have this conflict of the battle of how you treat yourself, how other people treat you, how you treat the world, how you see things, how other people see things, what you have what you have power over, what you don't have power over. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot that we have to hold our breath, so to speak, for, that we just can't control. We just look at it and go, wow, the world's messed up. Can't do anything about it. But you can.
Mm.
Because if you can be you, and you can be a good you, you're already doing something about it. And you're doing more than you'll ever know. You'll be doing more than you can ever speak. into existence. It's ineffable. It's incredible. It's amazing. And so, um, I would say my charge towards this is just that, um, and and that solves a lot. But that's what I got. Joe, what about you?
What do I got? I don't know what I got.
How about you?
I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm just sitting here
Hmm?
stewing over all this stuff.
That's what I got. Remember that.
Cats, thank you for some of the stuff you said in the chat here. You said, you may not be able to change someone's mind, but to expose your perspective is enough. Maybe one day down the line, they may come to understand where you come from. I've definitely had a lot of those moments where it's like, oh, I think I know what this person meant now. So I pointed out the
Mm-hmm.
aspect of conformity you brought up in Japanese culture because I feel as though it's definitely a big theme within the song as well. Right on.
Mm.
It's an interesting thing because it's almost like, yeah, don't step out of line, hold your breath. Like don't be the wonderful, amazing creature that you are. Don't go show the
Mm-hmm.
world who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
Hold back, hold your breath, stop, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of us live that way. We're compelled to,
Mm-hmm.
because then we don't have to experience as much trouble and trauma and drama and all that.
Kinda,
But what's
yeah.
the value of that?
There's
Everything has a price to pay, and the value is way bigger than that price.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In a lot of times, I may come out and be like, hey, it's a lot more insidious than that. I think there are people that have set up the world a certain way and they like the way that it's set up because it benefits them.
Hmm.
And so they want us to all play our part. And so they don't want us to achieve. They don't want us to grow. They don't want us to expand, right? Different systems, I rail against the education system and, like that there's a lot of issues there. I rail against the political system. There's a lot of issues there. But it seems to me like, like there's it's weird because like you take a look at a person, if you're in the LGBT community and you met me and you just started talking to me and hey, we started having a conversation and then all of a sudden it got to be known that I'm a Catholic.
Sure.
That would change the view of me with a lot of those people. If I'm with a bunch of Catholics and I meet somebody, blah, 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 and it turns out that they're part of the LGBTQ community, for a lot of those Catholics, it would change the view of how that person appears to them, right? At first, they're just
Mm-hmm.
another person, they're a valuable person, whatever. Like, we're getting to know them. And then all of a sudden, this one thing, because of some weird thing, then all of a sudden they're looked down upon, right?
Mm.
You know? That kind of stuff just makes me so upset
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
because it's like a person should be a blank slate, really. We talked about, like Martin Luther King talked about, he had a dream of a day when people would be judged by the content of their character, who they were, not by what group they belonged to.
Mm.
I know a lot of people. They're wonderful, kind, loving people. But man, as soon as they find out someone's a Republican, they got nothing nice to say about them.
Mm. And that goes both ways.
It goes both ways. Same thing. I know Republicans who are very nice, wonderful, great people. As soon as they find out a person's a Democrat, got nothing nice to say about them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, goes both ways. Stupid. It's absolutely stupid.
Yes, Katz, you're so right. It's so hypocritical to the teachings of Christianity. Love your neighbor as yourself, right? Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's like what. It makes me so mad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, who are you? Like, shut up. Why don't you figure out your own? And that's one of the reasons why Jesus himself said, remove the plank from your own eye before you try to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Right? Like, get rid of your own issues first before you try to get rid of your brother's issue. Before you point out and prod and be mad about someone else's issues, resolve your own issues first. Because you know what? You flipping got them.
That's true.
You got issues, man. Because everybody does. Everybody's got weird quirks of how they see the world, right? And a lot of those are planted in us by different things we watch, listen to, people we talk to, groups that we affiliate with, all these different things. We get these ideas in our head. And like, I always get a lot. Like, my red flag goes way up now, like way up in the sky. Anytime somebody starts talking bad about a group of people, or anytime somebody starts, talking bad about a person because they're this or because they're that. And one of my, in my head, my response is, well, what makes you so much better than them? And sometimes I've said it out loud. And you know what? I haven't ever regretted it. Maybe I'll start saying it out loud more. Because what makes, seriously. What are you trying to tell me, that you're so much better? You're like a superior being than they are? And it really rang home for me when I dealt with the police in my area. When I was growing up, all this kind of stuff, the police in my area, man, and dealing with police in general has been a struggle. I've started to learn that, not all cops are bad. But most of the cops that I ran into had this like puffed up, well, I'm just so much better because I'm an agent of the law and blah, blah, blah. And I can do whatever I want. I can throw you on the ground and throw handcuffs on you and pull you into jail and da, 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 da. And I'm just like, what? Shut up. You got problems too. And I remember sitting there, and at the time, like I went with, this was my girlfriend at the time. She eventually became my wife. And we went to this house of this police officer, right? It was a friend of hers from high school, and she married a cop. We went over there for game night, right? And I remember sitting there, and when I was there, okay, so at the time I was kind of a bit of a pothead. We'll just be straight up honest, right? I was a little bit of a pothead, and I partied. and she didn't like any of that stuff, right? And whatever, right? We go over to this place, we go over to this house of this police officer. And one of the first things I hear is, yeah, this is an alcoholic household, blah, so what do you want to drink? And people are just getting fallen down, wasted.
Oh, wow.
At this cop's house. And then they're driving home.
Oh, wow, okay.
I'm like, really? Some upstanding police officer person, like you're such a hypocrite, man. Because you'd be busting people for doing that same thing you're allowing your friends to do, right? And so, like, I'm sitting there like, jeez. So anyway, you didn't know you were gonna get this kind of earful, did you, cats? I apologize. Wow, Kawhi, your relatives had a physical fight on Christmas dinner over the January 6th events. I can see that happening. That was a big charged up thing. I know people who are really, really angry about that situation on both sides. For those of you who don't know, the January 6th, I think that's the storming of the Capitol that a group of people did. Cat says innocent life is a target all the same to them. It's all a joke if it's not their pain. You're nothing more than a thing to blame. It's true. There's a lot of truth in that song. I really appreciate you bringing this up. And I'm sorry if I started spouting off too much. But I don't necessarily know what the answer is, except for it has to happen on an individual basis. Like each one of us has to start looking at our neighbor lovingly. And, the groups that we're affiliated with, the different people that we're part of, like I'm a devout Catholic. I think it came out in the getting us to spout is the goal. And Jono, yes, thank you for the quoting lyrics from my song, Step Aside there. Because, yeah, that was definitely about some police stuff that I had going on when I was younger. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, the answer is not an easy answer. There's no easy fix to this because it has to happen in each of us individually. Right? Like, I'm a Catholic. I read scripture every day, which is a very not normal thing for a Catholic.
Yeah,
most Catholics don't. I read my catechism every day. I read the scripture and the catechism, a little bit of it every day. But those of you who know me, I am not like a typical Catholic when it comes to what you would view a Catholic as, or what is posited as a Catholic in the general media or by general groups or whatever, because I'm honest and I'm trying to be down to earth, and I'm going to look at you with love and compassion, and I'm going to try to be your friend. Right? Now, if you really hurt me, then I'm going to have trouble loving you in your face. Like, I'll probably want to love you from a distance. If you hurt me really bad. Right? Because I can forgive, but sometimes forgetting is not on the agenda.
Yep. And that's okay.
Yep. But anytime I start to feel puffed up about my position because I'm a part of a certain group or whatever, it's like I have to knock myself down a little bit and say to myself, wait a second. I am a person. Everybody else is a person too. And for a long time, it was a struggle because I had been pressed down so far that I felt like subhuman. Like I was less than a person. For years. Decades even. I was less than a person. And so then it was hard for me to even relate to humans at a human level because I felt like I was just like less than. And so people would walk all over me and I'd let them. Right? But then what we have to figure out is like, okay, how can I just be on that even keel? Understand, we're all living in the same world. We're all human beings. We're all existing. We all have problems. Some of us have physical problems. Some of us have mental problems. Some of us have emotional problems. There's all kinds of variants of problems that we all have. And we all got them. And we all got blind spots. And we all got foibles. We all got issues. Right? But the key is, can I look at that other person when I see them and look at them without judgment? Now, we all make judgment calls all the time. Just because I'm not going to judge you as a person doesn't necessarily mean I want to be in business with you. Right? Because some people out there, I can make a judgment call. I can talk to them. I can love them. I can treat them like a person, but I understand that they're a liar. I don't want to be in business with someone who's a liar. That makes a really hard business relationship. Right?
A very difficult one, yes.
Mm-hmm. But it all comes down to even if someone has an issue and I don't feel like I can trust them, I can still love them. I can still treat them like a person. I can still be kind and I can still try and be helpful, right? And it doesn't mean I have to point out their faults. I don't have to do that. Because sometimes it's not my place to point out somebody's fault. A lot of times, if you're going to point out somebody's faults to them, you got to have a relationship with them so you'll think that they'll listen to you, right? Otherwise, it doesn't help them and it doesn't do any good, and we just wasted air. But we might have felt
We just
better
made
about
more hot
ourselves,
air.
right? Exactly. And you might have
Increase the
just
intention.
increased the tension between you. You might have just created hostility, all this kind of stuff, right? So these are things to consider. I remember meeting people who were just like, well, we just say what's on our mind. That's how we work. I'm just saying. I'm just calling it like I see it. You know? Like, shut up. Have a little tact, man. Like, what if you're seeing it wrong? I'm just calling it like I see it. What if you're seeing it wrong? I'm just saying, what if you're saying something you have no idea everything about? You have no idea all the situations going on with that person.
Mm.
And if you were in that same circumstance, if you were that person, you do the exact same thing. And that was one of the things I took from a book. I don't even remember which book it was years ago. Years ago, I remember reading this book, and it said there was just one little line that said, if I was that person and I was in that position, I would do the same exact thing. When we're thinking about judging somebody, when we're thinking about looking down on somebody or anything like that, if I was that person and I was in their position, I'd do the exact same thing. Because the truth is, you would. If you were them in the position they were in,
It's all
you
the
would
same
do exactly
experiences
what they did.
beforehand.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the proof is that they did it. Zay, get that burger out of the chat.
Holy crap. Doesn't have bacon on it? I don't want to see it.
No, I know what you guys are getting at. You guys are trying to make me all even more hot-headed. I get you. Oh man.
Oh no.
Look at all these burgers, man. All right, I think I'm done. Ryan, did you have anything else?
Nope. Don't got anything. I think, like I said before, a lot of this is solved if you just live in a humble and loving way. Understanding the values that you can find solves a lot of problems. You solve a lot of your own drama in life, and when people confront you with theirs, it's a lot easier to solve, a lot easier to go through. And like you said, Katz, the only way you can, like, kindness goes a long way. Like, you might know, like, it might be like, for example, my one side of my family didn't like blacks because they did a bunch of bad stuff in their city. So they thought, they were kind of racist, basically. They're racist. And then, but I had experienced a few good moments with them before I had like before I had a sound decision made. And I'll tell you what, like, kindness can absolutely make up your decision about something. It's like, I don't think I like these people, but then again, they were actually really nice to me. So, maybe they're not bad. Maybe I like them. I mean, it is just like that. It's simple, it's plain, dumb, easy. But that's the reality of it. Your experience paint your ex- your experience of things paint your emotions or your experience, which is funny. So yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't think you can't make a big splash, because you make a huge one every day. Every day that you're yourself and you just be the best you that you can be. I mean, There's nothing better than that. That's exactly what the world wanted from you. That's exactly what the world needs from you. Exactly what you're best at. It's like, yeah, don't shut yourself out.
Mm-hmm. Because that's
Who
really,
cares about the drama?
well, that's what it really comes down to when you're in that person to person situation, right? I've met fantastic public speakers,
Hmm.
and I've seen it go all kinds of different ways. The best ones are the best community movers are the ones that when you are eye to eye with them, they treat you like a human being. They treat you with love, humility, compassion, all that kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely true.
But a
Joe and I both
lot,
have those experiences with people like that.
yep. But there are a lot of public speakers. There are a lot of social motivate, like people who are very influential. That if you meet them face to face, they'll walk all over you. They'll treat you like dirt.
Hmm.
They're a shell of a human being, and it's sad because what they need to do is open up their heart and understand. I mean, you can do some great things. You can hold some great power over stuff. And Katz, I love what you were saying in the chat here. Social change is difficult because it involves breaking down the institutions that perpetuate harm on marginalized groups. On top of that, changing everyone's mind. And then you also have the marginalized group. When things start to change, a lot of times the marginalized group wants revenge. And so
They
then
want to resist.
they'll go like way far in the other direction, right?
Hmm.
Against whoever. And so like because of this anger, this deep-seated anger, which is probably righteous, right? Because they've been marginalized for a long time. And so they're mad about it. And so then they go and it's this back and forth like crazy, but like why can't we just look at people as people?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. One of the main here's the I think the best thing you can do is recognize the enemy where the enemy is. And people aren't your enemy.
Mm-hmm.
The institutions aren't your enemy. Believe it or not. It's not the institutions, it's not even the people that run them. The enemy is, well, as a Christian, I would say it's Satan, but it's the division,
Yes.
ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
Division out of a lack of love, out of a lack of humility, out of a lack of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The division. And the interesting thing is, you can look at all of these and say, if we didn't just separate everybody out into their groups and say, it's, it's like, it's all like, it's their fault, it's that group, they're not doing it right, or they've taken it too far, now we got to retaliate, whatever it is. If you just recognize, okay, the division itself is the problem, you start to end the war, because then you work towards the common ground, which takes away the problems of like, oh, it's their fault, or having the need to retaliate, because if they're on your side, you don't feel like you have to hurt them,
Mm-hmm.
you know
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's really important to recognize. It's not about disrupting the institutions or taking them down. It's about changing the culture so that we can end the division between us.
Mm-hmm.
The institutions will follow. The institutions will take themselves down if they recognize that we're on the same side, that
Mm-hmm.
we're fighting for the same thing, and that we don't need to treat each other poorly, right?
Yeah, but man,
Is that going to
I
happen?
really want to tear them down, man. Like,
Yeah. Is that going to happen? Is it realistic? I think it will happen and it won't happen. You'll get both sides of it. Some institutions will change, some will not. It's
mm-hmm.
just the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But the more we have an impact against the real enemy, the more difference it's gonna make. So yeah. And he said, the cheese topic, yeah. It's the first line of the song.
You meant
Yeah.
breakdown as in dissect, not tearing institution down in general. Man, I want to. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
This is where I get my self righteous like feeling, right? Where I'm just like, I want to grab a hold of those ivory towers at colleges and I want to rip them all down and explode them, right? Like,
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
see
it's
a
like I
lot of
wasn't
stuff
accusing
perpetrated
you of
there.
that at all. I wasn't even I didn't even think you
No,
meant that you were trying to tear them down
he
myself.
was getting at me because he knows me well enough to know.
I wasn't getting at you. I was just making a statement of like, how do we actually solve this? And it's
Right,
not to hurt each other. It's
right.
to because it's not targeted at you. It's targeted at everybody because we all fall into that category at times. We're just like, you know, where we reel off on some group or whatever
Hmm.
because it's the opposite side and it's caused problems for us. And it's like that we got to stop that.
Hmm.
That's not actually helping. That's just causing more division, causing more problems.
Right.
It's literally just it's when
That's the
you fight
truth.
your enemy in that way, you only aid their regime and their destruction over humanity.
Hmm.
So,
The division
yeah.
is the problem. The division is the problem.
Mhm.
You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. And it just creates more and more, like, people capitalize on that division all the time.
Mhm. Man, you can make big bucks if
Hmm.
you're working in news or something.
Yep.
You can capitalize on
News
that.
media
Yeah.
capitalizes on that division like crazy, man.
Mhm.
All kinds of places do. But yep.
Yeah. Well, so does art and all of its various forms and
Oh, sure.
or giving speeches. That's a good one.
Hmm.
Being a YouTuber just in general. You can make some money if you really want to get on those plot
Hmm.
lines and spread the division.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
But what good are you doing in the world? I don't know if you're really doing much. I think unity is what we need to strive for.
Hmm.
And I think people deep
Yeah,
down understand that. It's just
yeah,
we've been convinced that, you know, some other group is bad and it's their fault,
yeah.
you know. And
Well, we want to. Yeah.
the problem is the rich people. Nope, the problem is the poor people. Nope, the problem is the black people. Nope, the problem is the Jewish people. Nope, the problem is the gay people. Nope, the problem is the religious people. It's like we're all pointing fingers at groups, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, and again, it kind of just leads back to take the plank out of your own eye before you worry about the speck in your brother's.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like we're all the problem, but
Yep.
that's okay. It's okay to recognize that.
Kaz, you said it best.
Facades, yeah.
You said it best in the chat just above. A little bit of love goes a long way.
Hmm.
A little bit of love goes so far. If Ryan's driving a car in the snow and he goes in the ditch and he's broken down somewhere in the ditch in the snow, a little bit of compassion and saying, "Hey, you need some help? You need me to call
Oh
AAA or
man,
whatever,"
yeah,
goes a long way, man.
yeah. I've been in those situations. Like, yeah, I mean, one time my car slid down this road and it was all ice, and it just happened to be like that, like hills on both sides, and my car was not making it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was basically just stuck in these trenches, and someone came along and said, "Hey, you need to tow out of here." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes. What are you like? Who sent you? Thank you." And they're like, "Just some random person," and they had their tow truck at the ready, and they're just passing by, and they towed me up the hill, and I was like, "Oh man, you saved me hours and a lot of money."
Mm-hmm.
And it was awesome. I mean, I would have been stuck there for hours
Mm-hmm.
trying to get out of there.
Yep.
So yeah, it was great.
A little bit of
Yeah, so
love.
it makes a big difference. A
A
little
little
bit
bit
of
of
love.
love your neighbor, man. A little bit of love, even if
Hmm.
it's just a smile and a feeling that it's okay. You know, I got a little bit of validation in that regard with our newest artist, Tony. It
Hmm.
was really kind of cool. I went over there and, we were going through some of his stuff and everything. And um, he said, man, and he's older, he's older than I am, which I guess probably isn't saying much. But anyway,
Yeah, you're only 29.
but
It's not
he's
that old.
like,
I'm older than you.
he's looking toward retirement and all this kind of stuff, right? And so he's like, he said, you know, when I'm here and I'm, playing for you or singing for you or singing in front of you, I feel so comfortable. Like I feel like I
Mm.
can be who I am and you're not judging me. You know, you're watching me, you're enjoying this, you know, like all this kind of stuff. And it was just, I had hardly said
That's lovely.
anything. It was just a presence. He was just like, I feel like your presence is just very comforting. And I was like, that man, that speaks to my heart in volumes,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, it's true about you, Joe. I agree completely.
Yep. So,
Mm-hmm.
do I have a list somewhere or something of all the artists being produced by BSS? I'm actually, that's on my to-do list, is to find that list with our distributor because I want to see where we're at on our roster.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I don't have a list. Uh, I used to have a list on my whiteboard, and then now I don't. But it'd be pretty. It wouldn't be too hard to figure out. I just have to go back through all of our releases, through all of our different distributors, and
Mm.
you know, like figure it out. But I think right now we've got our account with our distributor allows us 20 artist spots, and I think we have 12 of them used.
Mm. Wow, that's awesome.
Um, I think. And it's weird because some of them are collaborations that have become their own artist entity, you know?
Yep.
Like I'm on like 4 of those artist spots.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It does work that way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, well he's brand new. Um yep. So anyway, wow, it's already 10:30.
Mm-hmm. We went past.
We did. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Can you talk to Tony? Why do you want to talk to everybody, Katz? I mean, you are a very sociable person. You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. Eventually, we're gonna get BSS big enough so we have BSS Con, and then you
Oh
can
wow,
talk to
yeah.
everybody, right? You just come to
Mm-hmm.
BSS Con. We'll put the. You can convince Tony of what?
To buy Zay burgers or something?
Buy Zay Burgers. No.
Zay Clan Burger. Zay Clan Media Burgers. Yes, that's kind of.
Yes, you're very convincing, Cats. Yes, you Zay, you want to come to BSS Con?
Of course he can. He would be one of the people.
Right.
He's on your roster,
You
man.
were on our artist roster way back when we only had 20 spots available. Those were like the early days, man. This is like, yeah, because eventually we're gonna grow
Mm-hmm.
that sucker. This is gonna be big, you know. That's our plan. But anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, listening to us rant and rave and, you know, get all up in your face and all this kind of stuff. And thank you
Man.
guys for the topics, man. You guys came through in a
Yeah, you
clinch
delivered.
cuz like we didn't have any topics when we started this show and then we ended up with 3. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. So
Mhm.
so much. You're amazing. Great
Mhm.
topics.
Yep. And thanks, man. Thank you guys so much. And yep, we'll see y'all next week. If you have a topic you'd like us to talk about, you know, go to bss. No, go to don'tworrywednesday.com. Oh my gosh. I almost said go to bss.studio. Go to bss.studio, see what's there. There's not
Go
much.
to shopify.bss.studio and buy a book. I think I got
Yeah.
that right.
Yeah, you could buy a book. You could see what I talked about in the first topic.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That's
right
right.
here. I got one right here. Look at this.
You can go buy some cool postcards at the
You can
moment.
see the reflection of my
That's right, you did
screen
talk
in it.
about
It's
that.
so glossy. Look at how
It
glossy that
is
is.
so beautifully
You can
glossy.
see, yeah.
Open up a page of that beautiful, magnificent piece of art.
Let's find a good one.
Hey yo.
I gotta find my
Okay, we don't
favorite.
need to sell it to you guys. I just wanted to see Joe do it. Let's see what page he
I want to
opens up
see my
to.
favorite. This is one of my favorites because it's got
Ooh,
my
yes, I
favorite
know which one
picture of
this is.
Haruka on it.
Yeah,
Can't even
where she's
see.
looking that look.
She's got that look. That one up there. Okay, this one
Yeah.
where I'm covering her face. No, peekaboo. That's my favorite one.
This is my favorite one. Cover it.
Yep.
That's great.
But yeah,
She's got an awesome look. Yeah,
every order gets a free box.
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that last time.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll send it to you,
I was
and
sitting in the club room.
I'll
Got it.
send it to you with love. Ooh, when the
Yeah.
world starts burning, tell me what do you do?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's right.
She stares staringly.
Blurring. Yeah.
I was sitting in the club room with how. That's the next song.
Yeah.
That's from The Chase. You know
You
this,
guys
kids.
know it. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys know. All right. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. We will see you next week on Don't Worry Wednesday. Until then, enjoy your life. Spread some love around. Be loving.
Be you.
And be
Be
you.
the loving you that you are.
Because you're worth it, man.
Mm-hmm.
And woman.
Yeah, you're worth it.
Whatever. Insect.
Insectoid.
Yeah.
Human
Insectoid
conscience.
human. Human conscience, insectoidness. Yes. All right.
Uh-huh.
And then, yeah. So we'll see you guys next week. We love you guys. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Love you all. Peace.